Some people spend years climbing a ladder, then feel nothing at the top. They get the job, the praise, the apartment, the title. They become the person they thought they were supposed to become. And then, in a quiet moment, a terrifying thought appears. Why does this not feel like my life? At first, they try to ignore it. They tell themselves they should be grateful. They remind themselves how badly they once wanted this. They look around at everything they earned. And somehow, the room still feels strangely empty. Not empty because nothing is there. Empty because something important is missing. Something they cannot explain without sounding ungrateful. This is one of the loneliest kinds of confusion. Because from the outside, your life may look like progress. But from the inside, it feels like you followed a map to the wrong place. You keep moving because stopping would raise too many questions. You keep improving because improvement feels safer than honesty. You keep chasing because the chase gives you something to do. But every milestone quietly asks the same question. If this was the answer, why do I still feel lost? That question is frightening because it threatens the whole story. The story that says success will make you calm. The story that says achievement will make you enough. The story that says if other people admire your life, you should be happy inside it. But a life can be impressive and still not be intimate. It can be respected and still not feel true. It can look like a dream and still belong to somebody else. That is the part most people avoid looking at. Many goals do not begin as desires. They begin as instructions. A parent praises one path, so it starts to feel safe. A teacher calls you gifted, so you begin protecting that image. A culture rewards status, so status begins to feel like direction. A friend group moves fast, so stillness begins to feel like failure. Slowly, a life gets built from signals. Applause becomes a compass. Comparison becomes a schedule. Fear becomes discipline. And approval becomes the sound of being on track. The strange thing is that borrowed goals can feel completely real. They can wake you up early. They can make you work harder than anyone around you. They can fill your calendar, sharpen your focus, and give you identity. But they often carry a hidden emptiness because they were designed to solve someone else's fear. Maybe the fear of being ordinary. Maybe the fear of disappointing your family. Maybe the fear of falling behind. Maybe the fear that without achievement, you would not know who you are. So the goal becomes more than a goal. It becomes protection. It protects you from judgment. It protects you from uncertainty. It protects you from the silence where your real desires might speak. And that is why letting go can feel impossible. You are not just releasing a plan. You are releasing the identity that survived through that plan. You are releasing the version of you that knew exactly how to be praised. You are releasing the future that made your suffering feel organized. This is why people stay loyal to goals that no longer feel alive. They are not weak. They are grieving a self they worked very hard to become. And grief does not always look like crying. Sometimes it looks like another promotion. Sometimes it looks like another course. Sometimes it looks like another 5-year plan. Sometimes it looks like productivity with a quiet sadness underneath. But the sadness is not always a sign that you failed. Sometimes it is the first honest signal you have received in years. It is the part of you that cannot be bribed by applause anymore. It is the part that knows a full calendar can still hide an empty life. It is the part asking for a different kind of courage. Not the courage to chase harder. The courage to ask what you would want if nobody clapped. What would still matter if it did not make you look impressive? What would you choose if being understood was no longer required? What would you stop pursuing if you trusted that stopping was not failure? These questions do not always produce instant clarity. At first, they may only produce silence, and that silence can feel terrifying, because when the borrowed voice gets quieter, your own voice may sound unfamiliar. It may be smaller than expected. It may want simpler things. It may want rest before reinvention. It may want depth instead of speed. It may want freedom more than applause. And it may need time before it trusts you again. That is why feeling lost is not always the opposite of growth. Sometimes it is the first moment you stop outsourcing your direction. Sometimes it is the collapse of a false map. Sometimes it is your real life trying to interrupt the performance. You do not have to destroy everything to listen. You can begin with one honest pause, one small question, before the next chase begins. Is this goal bringing me closer to myself, or only closer to being admired? Because the wrong life rarely feels wrong at first. It often feels responsible, impressive, and safe. Until one day, you realize the person everyone is proud of is not the person you came here to become.